Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today I am using the Sittin Pretty stamp set and dynamics from My Favorite Things. Actually had these for a little bit of time and I just never got around to using them, which is super sad because they're totally adorable. So I'm glad I got a chance to use them. You will see that this video, even though very long, this card is actually split up into two parts. And the reason that it is because I created the whole background and then also the details needed to be colored, and coloring takes a long time. So I ended up having to split it up into two different videos, but that means back-to-back videos and back-to-back story time. So at least there's that. So I had stamped this door, which is part of the set. I stamped it flat. And then here I'm drawing myself like a little extended porch to put my plants on. And then I'm going to do the siding for the house. I had some ideas of maybe putting some like windows in to kind of break it up. But I didn't end up doing that. I'm kind of glad I didn't because it would have been a lot more work. Not that I shy away from work. That's not what I'm saying. But it just seemed like this card did take me a little bit of time just because of all the things that I was doing to kind of build the scene, which I don't mind. It was an enjoyable card to make. I am using my, oh, sorry, I dropped my flip-flop while I was moving my leg. That was probably pretty loud. I am using a clear ruler and then the grid paper in the background to get the siding correct. I'm also going to use that ruler to set up my sidewalk. To be honest with you, I drew the little porch thing as like an extension from the stairs, and I really wish I really wish that I would not have put in the well, what's going to be the first line, but it's the second line for the porch, because when I was doing the grasses, like there's just this abrupt line where the grass would have been blocking it off, and there was really just nothing to do to fix it besides trying to mask it somewhat, and even that I wasn't 110% successful. So if you're going to remake this card with this video, don't put in that first line for the porch. Just kind of let the gray fade off into the grass and be happy with that. Several people have asked me recently about the pens that I use to outline my things. In the videos, you do see the EK Success journaling pens because that's what I have. Those were my favorite. I kind of stocked up on them, but they've been discontinued. It's a real bummer, but unfortunately that does happen. Once these run out, I will be switching back to the microns, which is what I used originally. So if you don't have a set and you're interested in getting a set, then purchase the microns, because they're pretty much the same exact thing and they will work just the same way with your alcohol markers. So for the background, now that everything's kind of laid out with the pens and drawn in, I did not include it in here, but please make sure that you erase your lines if you have any strays, because, well, I erase them anyway, even if my pen mark is right over top of it, because once you put alcohol markers on top of it, you can't erase it. It's trapped in there. And then just for the siding, I'm starting right underneath each line. So like the darkest part would be underneath each line, kind of like where they would meet or overhang. And then I'm going to work my way down to my lightest color. In the color scheme that I chose, I picked a navy. Honestly, because I want to paint my house this color. I really do. But Eric is like, no, we don't need to repaint the house. And he's right. It's very expensive. But I finally talked him into maybe being open to the color once we're at a point where the house needs to be repainted. Entertaining the dark blue with the white trim, which I think is super cute. Because our house right now is just brown. Bleh, brown. But anyway, what I was going to say about the color combination is that I am using a B45 in place of my B95 because I don't have a refill for it currently. I don't even know how I let that happen, and I definitely need to refill it before or get a refill before fall, because navy is for sure a fall color and I will be using a lot of it and I will need the refill. But just know, like, we've talked about it before, that you don't have to own all the Copics, that there's colors that are very similar to each other, and this is one of the ones that's just, it's very similar. Substituting a 45 for the 95 really was not that big of a deal. And then my lightest color is going to be a B21. I'm going to, and you see, like, as I'm coloring these anyway, just kind of like going back through the whole thing just to kind of blend them. And I will be doing that same thing with my lightest color, just to make sure everything looks the way that it is supposed to look. There really isn't a neat way to do that. I mean, maybe for somebody else there is, but there really isn't a neat way for me to do this. So you will see on my door frame and stuff that I did get blue on my door frame. You will also see me go back in with my 0 marker and just kind of clean that up a little bit. It wouldn't be a big, huge deal if you were doing like a more traditional brown trim, but I was doing a more modern white trim. And even though I'm going to add some shading with the grays, I still did not want the blues in there kind of muddying up my white trim. Also, I'm going to color this door. I'm going to color this door red. And I'm going to color this door red because I felt like it matched my scene. But if I did this to my house, I would not color my door red. Just FYI. You know, for anybody trying to get a visual, I would not do a red door. But yeah, so as far as story time goes, the last time that we talked, we had talked about how we have the 2-vessel cord for those of you who had the same situation and had happy outcomes. Thank you very much for sharing that information with me. I super appreciate it. Everything seems to be, like I said in the last video, seems to be going super well. I failed my gestational diabetes test, the 1-hour one. I also failed it when I was pregnant with Nathan. I only know one person who's ever passed it on the first try. Like, does anybody, is it like a fluke that there was this one person who passed it on the first try? Because I have never passed it on the first try. And last time I didn't fast before I went to do it. I mean, they tell you don't have to. Last time I didn't fast. This time I did, because I was like, maybe that's the key to passing the test, so I don't have to go do the 3-hour one. Turns out that was not true. So if you have never been pregnant, the gestational diabetes test basically goes like, you have to do a 1-hour one, and they're looking to see how your body processes sugar. So you go in, the first one you don't have to fast for. You go in, check in, the nice little nurse lady comes out and she gives you this super sugary orange drink, which isn't like the worst thing I've ever drank, because I had to drink that chalk stuff for an upper GI and that was wretched. I also had to drink the salty stuff for colonoscopy, and that was the worst thing ever. So this one isn't really that bad, honestly, in the big scheme of things. But so you drink it and it's like 50, like the glucose level in it is 50. I don't know if it's like milliliters or milligrams or how they measure it, but it's 50, y'all. And then you cannot eat, drink, chew, look at any other food or beverage for the next hour, and you're not allowed to leave. So you have to sit in the waiting room and just wait out this hour, and then after the hour passes, they take you back in the little room, and then they take your blood, and then they tell you if you're within the normal range or not. Why is this problematic for me? First of all, because I'm very selfish with my time. I think a lot of people are, but I'm terrible bad about it. Anything that is going to preclude me from doing my normal everyday things, in which, because my schedule is so jam-packed, I pretty much am irritated with and don't want to do. That's not anybody's fault. I need to do this to make sure that I'm healthy and that the baby is healthy. So obviously I'm going to do it, but I don't like it. Reason number 2, I don't like it. When I was young, I used to get super sick all the time. Like at least once a month, I would end up in the hospital with like 104-degree fever. And nobody could ever figure out what was wrong with me. And my poor mother must have just been so super stressed. Because, like, looking back on it now as an adult, who has children, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have just been beside myself, which she probably was. But anywho, so because of that, everybody wanted to take my blood all of the time. Also because of that, because like I had such the high fevers and stuff, they also wanted to put IVs in all the time. Now, there are people who are really, really, in any field, really, really, really super good at their jobs. And then there are people who are not. And I got a combination of both. Like, I got a combination of people who could take my blood or put in an IV and I would never even know that they were there. And then I got a combination of the other half of that, which is people who would like root around in my arm, like digging the needle in, trying to find their way to put the needle in or to get what they needed. And I have good veins. Like, I have super good prominent veins. So I feel really, really bad for the people who don't. Because if those are things that have happened to me and I have good veins, I cannot even imagine if you don't have good prominent veins and they have to really dig for them. So anywho, I don't like needles. If I see them, I start to panic. I start to get heart palpitations and like my heart rate increases. I start sweating. It's just not good. So I can't see them. Typically, if I don't see them, we're fine. I know what's happening and I don't like it. And obviously we'll have, like that stress reaction of like an elevated heart rate and things like that. But it's nothing where I feel like I'm super panicky. Like, it's okay. And so I always tell them. And they were all lovely, really, truly lovely. But so it was like 2 days later after the first test, they call me and tell me that, they want to see the numbers like 135 or below. Mine was 153. And I'm like, man, come on now. So now I get a call. I have to like book out half of a day because the 3-hour test, you have to fast for like 10 hours, 10 or 12 hours. And then you go in and they take a fasting blood sugar. So when you first go in, so you get poked that time. Then you drink the orange drink again, except this time instead of being 50, it's 100. Then they take your blood every hour for the next 3 hours. So like my appointment was at 10 a.m. The last blood draw they did was at 1. And then I was allowed to go home. So we obviously, when I first went, like when I did Nathan's test, I didn't have any other children. So I didn't have any other responsibilities. And so my mother came with me and hung out, and like we just hung out in the waiting room, and every hour they would call me back, and it went by relatively fast. But this time I have another child that needs care. And Eric has to leave for work at 2. I didn't know what time, like by the time they got me the drink and everything else, like I didn't know if I would be home in time. So I needed my mother to watch Nathan if I was not done by 2. So consequently I was going by myself. So I packed up some like crafty things and a book and headed in there. There's like a whole separate check-in place. So you check in and then they send you over to like where they actually do the labs for the blood draw. And there was this sweet little old man with a cane who was singing at the top of his lungs about getting another cup of whiskey. Like, I mean, y'all, he was singing it loud and proud. Like, good for him. But good for me, his test also seemed to be over relatively quickly, and I didn't have to listen to his singing for too long. So they call me back, they take my fasting blood sugar, they give me the drink. Now this time, like I said, it's 100 instead of 50. And then this thing happens where she's like, here, come into this little pod where this door closes and there's a recliner and a pillow and a desk, and do you need a blankie? And I was like, do I need a blankie? What is this? Pause. So here you can see where my grasses are. You can see them. Like that black line that's cutting right through them. So I added a little bit of black to my grass to kind of darken it up to see if maybe I could mask that line, it didn't really work. The one on the right, by the end of it, you won't be able to see because of my plants, but the one on the left, you still can see a little bit. So yeah, just leave that line off. Just FYI, leave it off. So anywho, so she shows me into my little, den, into my little pod. Also, I was concerned about having to sit there for the 4 hours because, well, I wasn't concerned. I guess it's just, it is what it is in the times that we're in. It would mean 4 hours of sitting there with a mask on, which isn't a huge deal, but it is slightly annoying. So here for the door, I'm using my silver jelly roll pen. I love these things, use them all the time. There's a silver, a gold, and like a copper color in my pack. And so I use that for the door handle to add a little bit of shimmer. And then I'm also going to put a white highlight on the door frame and then also on the stairs to kind of set them apart and make them look a little bit more 3D. Okay. So she shows me into my little pod, and I am amazed at this little pod. They even offered me a blanket. Like, because when I came, now granted, it's been 8 years. I will give you that. But like when I came with Nathan, like they just had like the, regular chairs. You sat out in the waiting room with everybody else. There was no perceived entertainment. So I was very excited about the pods. I was a fan of that. So here you can see me using these same pens. I'm just outlining the background. This is, again, just something that I like to do just because I like a bold outline. I'm not going to really outline too much of anything else because the door was stamped and everything else was already outlined. I did go over the stairs again just because that white gel pen is opaque. I know how to say it. And sometimes it could get a little wonky and I wanted the black lines to be prominent. Here I'm moving on to the sentiment, which I think is the cutest thing ever. It says, in case you were stalking the mailbox. And so I don't even know, did I show it? I don't remember if I showed it or not. I would have treated it with my embossing bag. And then I ended up stamping it in white ink just because I thought maybe that would give me a more bold impression in the background. Because I'm going like right in between those two lines. And so the color really isn't super consistent. So once I have that on there, I'm going to go ahead and clean up that white embossing powder. And then I'm just going to hit it with my heat tool. And then that's pretty much going to be it for the background. Like I said, we'll continue the card and the story time in the next video, which is all of the other accoutrements and focal points that you see in the card at the beginning and end of the video that are not the background or the sentiment. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I will catch you on the next video. Bye.